name is Tatiana Giddings, and thank you for joining us in today's Sports Access. Having spent 21 years in a range of positions, including coaching, administration, media relations, and faculty, with us today is Texas Wesleyan's Athletic Director, Ricky Dotson. Mr. Dotson, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Tatiana. It's great to be here.
Well, let's begin. What is topmost on most students' parents and employees' minds these days is the coronavirus pandemic. What has it been like to be in charge of student-athletes' safety regarding the COVID-19 situation?
It's been extremely challenging. In fact, you mentioned me being in higher education for 21 years. This has probably been the most challenging time that I've ever gone through. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit of a roller coaster ride, and you're looking out for safety first and foremost, mm-hmm. and then at the same time providing our athletes with the ability to compete and to participate. So it's been very difficult, it's been challenging, but I think we're doing things the right way, and so that's been a little bit rewarding.
Right. Well, how did you guys come up with the new security protocols?
Well, we formed what we called an athletic action team, and that was really a recommendation that the NCAA made and some other people that we had talked to. And so we formed a committee that had several head coaches, a couple of student athletes, our medical director, athletic trainer, and then myself. And we met weekly through the summer leading up to when classes began. And so through those discussions, through those meetings, we came up with the protocols. We got a lot of direction from our medical director. And so it was really a team effort.
So what protocols do you have put in play for students and athletes and staff pertaining to the coronavirus?
Well, we've got a lot. I mean, we really and truly have put out an entire handbook for our athletes and for our staff. So just to kind of give you an idea, our athletes daily, just like our students on campus, go through the screening questionnaire that's online. Then before they practice, they're required to do a temperature check, and anything above 99.4 gets flagged and they're not allowed to participate in their practice. We send them home, we monitor them for symptoms. If we have anyone who is symptomatic, we have those individuals tested. Now, we did an initial test on all of our athletes when they reported to school. So all of our athletes have had a PCR test, which is the coronavirus test, and then an IgG test, which tests for the antibodies. So each one of our athletes has gone through that testing protocol. In addition to that, for athletes, it's really important to do cardiac screening. And so anyone that we've had who has tested positive has had to go through an echocardiogram, an EKG, and some have had to go through a cardiac MRI. And so those are all of sort of the safety precautions that we've put in for our athletes before they can even step on the field. We require all of them to wear masks anytime except when they are in an actual practice. And even some of our coaches are making their teams practice with masks on. For our coaches, they have to wear masks all the time, whether they're in practice, during a game, whatever that may be. They're always required to have some type of a face covering. At our games, we require our spectators to go through the same screening process that our athletes go through. We require them to do a temperature check on their own. We're also limiting capacity. So in the Sid Richardson, the gym, right now we're allowing about 150 total spectators in there. And that place normally seats probably around 600. So we've dropped that capacity quite a bit. The outdoor events, we're able, so Farrington Field, for example, with football, seats 18,000 people. We can get our fans in there and space them out 6 feet apart without really having to limit our capacity. So the outdoor sports haven't been near as difficult to manage. On game days for our athletes, the NAIA is requiring them to do a screening form. So the opponents and us, our home teams, have to fill out a screening questionnaire that gets turned in. They have to do a temperature check just like they do before practices. So all of those kinds of protocols are in place. We've also got some guidelines for our weight room and how we want to clean and how our coaches are supposed to clean once they get done with practices and cleaning their equipment. It's pretty extensive, but I do feel like we're doing things the right way. I think we're making a safe environment for our athletes. Excuse me, and I think it's going to be, I think you can already see the benefits that it's paid, because our numbers of positive tests compared to the rest of the country are really good.
So do you think these protocols are going to be successful as the year progresses or the season progresses?
Well, I certainly hope so. I think it's something that we're just going to have to watch. I mean, we have to monitor it day to day. But I think the protocols that we have in place are the right ones. It's important that our coaches sort of set an example so that our athletes see that, hey, we're not kidding about this. This is something that's required. It's important for you to do. The other thing is that we have reinforced to our athletes the importance of following these guidelines, because if they don't, we run the risk of a game being canceled or even a season being canceled. And they all want to play naturally. So I think there is a little bit there that can kind of make them accountable, that makes them want to do those things. And so in answer to your question, yes, I think our protocols are good. I think they're working. I think that anything can happen at any time. You know, a student can go somewhere off campus and something could happen and bring it back. So you never really know from day to day, but it is something that I think so far our coaches and athletes have done a good job with.
Well, can you tell me a little bit more about how the committee came up with the Blue Technology Partnership?
The Blue Frame Technology Partnership, is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
So Blue Frame is really sort of separate from our COVID protocols. The Blue Frame is more of a streaming device or a streaming platform that we're going to use to televise our games. And we came with that mainly because the capacity at our games is now going to be limited because of COVID and because of the protocols that are in place. The capacity at a lot of our events are going to be 50% and maybe even less. So we wanted to provide our fans, our students, with the opportunity to see our games free of charge through a streaming service, so that if they can't get into the games, can't attend them, they're going to be able to watch them that way. And so that's really sort of the genesis of that whole program. We're really looking forward to it. I think it's a great opportunity for our fans to see our games, for our student athletes to get some exposure. So it's really exciting.
That is exciting. It's really exciting. So what is your take with the uncertainty in various sports regarding the possible cancellations of the spring season?
That's a great question. The uncertainty surrounds us every day. I mean, we could wake up tomorrow, have a couple of positive cases, which would cause us to make a cancellation. And the same could go for somebody that we're competing against. And so we have really taken the mantra with our coaches and with our teams, we're just going to go day to day. We're going to see what the next day brings. And I think that's really the only way that you can approach it. We're going into it as if we're going to play a full season. We're going to work day to day to get to the next game. And if we get through that game, we're going to work to get to the next one. But it's a difficult thing mentally and even to some degree emotionally for athletes, because they prepare themselves to be ready to go on a certain day or at a certain time. And if that gets canceled or gets moved around, then it becomes, it becomes difficult to make the adjustment. But the whole year is going to be an adjustment. Mm-hmm. And we have tried to, as best we can, to prepare our athletes and to prepare our coaches to know, hey, we're not real sure what's going to happen from day to day, and you just need to be ready to make adjustments and go with it.
Yes. So who makes this decision about the cancellations? Is it you, the coaches, or the NAIA?
Well, it could be any of those. It could be that a coach doesn't feel comfortable. So I'll give you an example. If our soccer team is set to go to Oklahoma City to play a game, and once they get to Oklahoma City, we have a whole set of screening procedures and temperature checks and things that we go through at the game site. Well, if we get to the game site and there is an individual who doesn't pass the screening or has a high temperature, our coach may decide that he doesn't think it's a safe environment for our athletes to participate. And the same could go for the opposing coach. So they could, in all honesty, at that point say, we're not comfortable, we don't want to put our athletes in that situation, and we could cancel the game at that point. The other piece to that is that I'm going to meet with our head coaches and our athletic trainers before home games so that we can make that decision. If we've had a series of positive tests, or we've got a number of student athletes who are quarantined, we will meet and on a case-by-case basis decide whether or not we think that it's time for us to make a cancellation. There's been a lot of, discussion in the athletic world and even in the higher education world about thresholds. At what point do you shut something down? When do you take a 2-week break? And no one really seems to have a number. It's all a case-by-case basis. And so that's really kind of the theory that we're going to follow. And it's not a perfect system, but things happen so quickly, I'm not sure that that's not the only way that we can really go about it right now.
Right. It seems like you all are taking the proper precautions in order to have a safe and successful season. So with that, we are going to take a quick break. Stay tuned.
Hey, I'm Mike Rowe, here today to encourage you to connect with 811 before you dig.
And I'm Mike Rowe, and I'm here because I love to dig in the dirt.
It's true. He's also here because he's very small and not that bright. Here, for instance, we can see Mike Rowe doing what he loves to do. And here we can see the consequences of not doing what he should have done. Dude, why didn't you call 811?
I forgot the number.
See? Not that bright.
We are back here in Sports Access with our guest, Ricky Dotson. Ricky Dotson is in his 3rd season as athletic director and the 9th season of service at Texas Wesleyan. After serving as an assistant coach for 5 seasons, Dotson was named athletic director in 2018. So, how did you become athletic director?
Well, I guess it's been a short journey since I've been here, but a long journey over the course of my career. I was an assistant athletic director and associate AD at Lon Morris College prior to coming to Texas Wesleyan. And funny story, Brennan Shingleton, who is our men's basketball coach, I actually coached in college. And so when I came here, I came as Brennan's assistant. And I had coached some golf when I was at Lon Morris, and Coach Cornett asked me to help him out. And so I started helping with the golf program as well. And then in 2017, Steve Tratcher, who was our athletic director, had decided he had gotten enough of administration. He was tired of the meetings and wanted to get back into coaching. And so he asked me, about my interest in doing that. And I told him I would definitely be interested in doing it. And so I became the associate athletic director here at Texas Wesleyan for a year, serving under Steve. And he sort of showed me the ropes and helped me get adjusted to everything that was going on. And then in 2018, made the transition.
Well, how are you enjoying being the athletic director? Is there ever a point where you want to go back to coaching?
The COVID-19 has made me question everything. But in all seriousness, I love it. I absolutely love doing what I do. And I do miss coaching. I miss the competitive part of it. Being the athletic director, I don't get near as much personal interaction with our athletes, and I miss that. But the ability to have my hands in a lot of different things that can affect the university and that hopefully can impact our student athletes, that's something that I really enjoy. And then on top of that, the challenges that come with it, to be able to hopefully help the university through some of those challenges and to help our coaches through those things. I enjoy that part of it.
Well, that's something you don't see every day. How was it switching roles with someone that you coached in college?
It was great. The story behind that is that I was a young coach in college. Brennan actually went to school at Saginaw Boswell, and I recruited him. He came to play basketball for us at Lon Morris. I worked at Lon Morris for close to 20 years. The school closed in 2012, and so I was looking for a job, and I called Brennan. He had just become the head coach here in basketball, and I said, Brennan, I'm looking for a job. Do you have anything open? And he said, I just became the head coach. I'm looking for an assistant. if you want it, I'd love to have you here. And so, I owe a lot to him. I mean, he helped me in a situation that, there just wasn't a lot out there. It was late in the summer. Most of the schools had already hired their coaches. And so, to come in that situation, I was very thankful, first of all. But the other thing is he and I became friends even after he started playing with it. He was in my wedding. And so to be able to work with someone that I respect, that I knew had the best interest for me, was something that I wouldn't trade for the world. And, to this day, he and I are still close. I mean, I consider him a close friend of mine, and, I will be forever grateful for what he did.
That's good having that kind of relationship with someone.
Oh, it's
really
fantastic.
good.
I mean, you get a lot of, work relationships aren't necessarily that way. And so to have it, it's really good.
That's good. So would you consider being an athletic director at Texas Wesleyan a career goal?
Yes, no question. I mean, my goal when I got into coaching was I wanted to be a Division I head coach. And after I had coached for a few years, that goal sort of switched. I kind of saw what you had to do to get there, and I wasn't real sure that that's the road that I wanted to take. And when I got some administrative experience, I really enjoyed it and liked it, and really sort of reestablished my goal to be an athletic director at a four-year university. And so being here is definitely a career goal.
Yeah, it's a great feeling when you actually accomplish a goal that you wanted.
Sure, you can aspire to do certain things, and to finally get there, it's a great feeling.
That's good. In your first 2 seasons as athletic director, the department has claimed national championships in men's golf and table tennis, while making national tournament appearances in baseball, men's basketball, cheerleading, cross country, women's golf, track and field, volleyball, and men and women's wrestling. How would you compare the success of various sports after your arrival to previous years?
Well, I think we've always had a strong athletic program. You look back over the history of golf, and it is one of the best in the NAIA. Our table tennis program has always been really good. Men's basketball has won a couple of national championships. So, I think I've been able to continue the success that we've had. I would like to think that during my time as the athletic director that we continue to get better and better, and our success even grows more than it has. Adding wrestling and now bringing in football, there's a lot more things that are going on. So it's difficult, but I always have said this, there's room for success for all of us. It doesn't have to be one sport or another sport. We all want to be good, and it's important to me that we are good. The more important thing is that we produce quality student athletes, individuals who graduate, who go on to careers outside of the university, who are productive citizens. And I think that's the most important thing that athletics at our university can provide.
How do you feel about being a part of this?
I think that's what makes the job so rewarding to me. I told you that I love what I do. That's it. Being able to see what happens with student athletes after they get out of here, and to think that maybe some little piece I had a part in that. And so it is very rewarding.
Yes. Well, you were vital in bringing the football program back to Texas Wesleyan in 2017. What was the purpose of bringing football, and why was it so important at the time?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons that it was important for coming back. The last time that they had football here was World War II, and the onset of the war brought an end to that. Football in the state of Texas is huge. And I think, for us, it just made a lot of sense. I mean, we're in a football hotbed. We had a history, a very interesting history with football way back. And so to bring it back, I think brought some excitement. It allowed us to add more students to the university. It helped our enrollment. There's no question that that's important. But I also think even for our students, hopefully it's going to bring back a way for them to get more involved, to be more engaged. And, again, I'm happy that we did bring it back. It's a difficult thing to get going and get started. I think we've got the right coaches in place. They've done a really good job so far. So I look for our football program to just get better and better.
I feel like getting students more involved is very beneficial to their school life. It'll actually make them want to come and do more, want to come to school every day.
I agree. I agree completely with you. I mean, I think that the engagement of our students in whatever activities there may be, whether that's theater productions or sporting events, I think that's important to get a sense of community, and hopefully we can provide some of that. I know I've been involved in some of our strategic planning meetings, and student engagement is one of our things that we continue to talk about. And so athletics, I think, is a good way to do that.
Yes. Well, later on in 2019, you also guided the department to bring in men and women's wrestling. Why wrestling specifically?
You know, wrestling, I have never been at a school that had a wrestling program, and so I was not real familiar with it. And as we started researching it and looking at it, the state of Texas had the second most number of high school wrestlers in the country, and only one collegiate program in wrestling existed in the state. And so there was this large group of athletes that were men and women wrestlers that really had nowhere to go in the state of Texas. Wesleyan Baptist was the only one that was offering scholarships. And so we just felt like there was a void there that we could fill. And, you know, I think it's turned out that we've had a really good response in our recruitment. We've been able to get quality wrestlers. You know, the first year our women did really well at the national championships. We had some men that did really well. So I just think the opportunity was there for us to create a program, and there was going to be a lot of interest in it from high school students. And so, so far that's happened.
So how did it make you feel being able to open up this opportunity for students?
Oh, really good. I mean, it's, you know, the idea was put there, and all I did really was kind of follow through on what we were trying to do. I mean, I got the coach hired, and at that point, he's the one who recruited the athletes, and we mapped out a strategy on how we wanted to, you know, sort of create the program. But it felt really good to build something from nothing, right? I mean, there was nothing there, and so even getting the mats and getting the uniforms and getting the coaches hired, all of that is a building process. And so to build something like that and to know that it's hopefully going to last and going to be here for a long time is a good feeling.
I'm sure it is. We are going to take a quick break. Stay tuned.
Can't work for COVID-19 reasons like a stay-at-home order, quarantined, seeking diagnosis for symptoms, caring for your children because their school or care provider is closed, or if you're caring for someone under quarantine. You may be eligible to take up to 2 weeks of paid sick leave and additional leave for childcare needs. Visit dol.gov/FFCRA or call 866-4-US-WAGE. A message from the U.S. Department of Labor.
We are back here in Sports Access with our guest, Ricky Dotson. Mr. Dotson, you headed up the United States men's golf team at the World University Championship in Brie, France, and led Team USA to 11th place finish. Can you tell us more about this fantastic experience?
You've really done your homework here. That's a surprise to me. Maybe one of the most thrilling experiences I've had. It was, we got to compete in France. It's my first time to get to go to France. We had a men's and a women's team together there. I've told some other people this, but one of the most chilling moments that I've ever had is we were standing on the first tee, and they introduced our first player, and they said, representing the United States of America. And it's an emotional thing when you're representing your country. And so for me, just the mere fact that I was chosen to be a part of it, and then to get to serve and to represent the country in that way, It's something that I will never forget, and I would love to be able to do it again. I doubt that I ever will. It's one of those things, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but it was something that ranks very high in terms of the things that I've been able to do.
Well, that's a big once-in-a-lifetime
Yeah,
opportunity.
it is.
We have seen that you have also been part of 2 different programs, such as golf and basketball. Can you explain your experience with both of those sports?
Well, basketball is something that has been a part of my life forever. My father was a Division I basketball coach. He coached at the University of Texas. And so growing up, that was all I ever wanted to do. I wanted to coach basketball. And so I did, and actually worked for my father. I was an assistant coach to him at one point. And so through that, somehow I developed this love for the game of golf. I can't explain it. I don't know where it came from. I guess maybe because when you get old, that's about the only sport you can play. But I developed this passion for golf, and when I got to Wesleyan, I had coached a little bit of golf at Lon Morris. When I got to Wesleyan, Coach Cornett, one of his assistants, had left, and he asked me if I would be interested in doing it. I had gotten to know him pretty well, and so through that is really where I gained most of my experience in coaching golf. And he is in 3 different Hall of Fames. He's recognized all over the country in the golf circles. And so to be a part of his staff and to be under his tutelage and to have him as a mentor is something that, again, not a lot of people get to experience. And so I was really happy to be a part of it. We had some really good teams, national tournament finishes. I think 3rd was the best that we finished. And then to show you that I was kind of dragging them down, they won the national championship in 2019. So, both to me have been great experiences. I wouldn't trade those for anything. And, I do miss the coaching part of it, like I was talking about before, but it's something that I'm glad I got to do.
You hold a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in communications from the University of Texas at Austin. How does your current role relate to your degrees, especially for students currently looking up to this career path?
Well, I think that a communications degree pretty much feeds into everything that I do on a daily basis. And I would even go further to say, in this environment that we're currently in, where we have all the Zoom meetings and all the Teams meetings, communication becomes a very big part of that. So it's something that I think is very beneficial, probably regardless of the career that you go into. For my particular position, I do a lot of things where I'm having to speak in front of groups, or I have to meet with groups that may require me to give some type of a presentation. In fact, just before I came here, I'm on the board of the Fort Worth Sports Commission, and we had a large meeting, and I had to talk during that meeting. So I think there's a lot of instances where that degree comes into play. For students here, the thing that I would say is that from when I got my degree and to where communications are today are probably light years apart. I mean, we didn't have social media back then. And so I think there's a lot more to it now than when I went to school. I wouldn't know the first thing about trying to get the social media stuff going. But in terms of just being able to sit down and talk to someone, or to give a presentation, or to stand in front of a group, I think a communications degree is always going to be helpful.
So what degree would you recommend for students trying to accomplish your career goal?
That's a really good question, and I think there's a lot of answers to that. If you look across the landscape of college athletics, you see a lot of people with communications degrees. You see a lot of people with law degrees. You see a lot of people with business degrees. I think all of those things come into play in an athletic administrative position. I don't know that one's any better than the other because there's so many different aspects to it. My philosophy is, and I think most people would agree, is that you try to find out what you do well and take care of that part and try to put people around you on your staff that can handle the parts maybe that you don't handle as well. And so I think if you do have a law degree, you want to bring in someone who maybe is better at communications or whatever that may be. For me, I've got 2 assistants and 2 associates, excuse me, and they handle the things that I don't handle as well. And so I don't know that I would have a recommendation on a certain degree, but I think any of those things that I mentioned would be good.
Well, that sounds like a good plan.
Yep.
So what are your expectations and plans for the future as athletic director of the institution?
Well, we've got a lot of things that we would like to do. As with everything, a lot of that depends on money and funding and that sort of thing. But, number one, I would love to improve our facilities. We would like to someday have a stadium on campus where we could host our football games here. I think that would be a great thing for our students. We talked about student engagement. Allowing our students to be able to walk out of their dorm room and walk across campus and go to a game, I think would be really good, and to bring our alumni back. So facilities is very high on the list. I'd like to make some improvements in those areas. I want to continue to get our teams to national tournaments and to national championships and to have success. I think that provides a good experience for them. It provides exposure for the university. And it just brings a sense of pride, I think, across the campus. And then the last thing is I really want to produce graduates, people who leave this place, get their degree, and then come back and say, you know what, I had a great experience there as an athlete, and I want to give back. I want to be a part of it. So that's really important to me.
It seems like you have a lot of plans for the athletic department. So, well, Mr. Dotson, thank you so much for joining us today. It was very exciting learning about all of your experiences.
Well, thanks for having me, Tatiana. It was great to be here and great to be a part of a wonderful university.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in today's Sports Access. Do not forget to follow us on Facebook at The Rambler and on Twitter and Instagram at The Rambler TWU. I am Tatiana Giddings, and this is Rambler TV.
Rambler TV.